The Fairy Whispering podcast explores the multisensory pathways to connect with the other world, such as listening to messages in owls' hoots, singing to mermaids in a moonlit cove, or knowing what to give a gnome when they come to dinner. I'm Claire Casely, a fairy whisperer and researcher. Take my hand and I'll guide you safely through the enchanted twilight woodland where they are waiting to meet you. If you enjoy this episode and would like to support the show, you can sign up to my Fairy Whisperer Patreon community or make a one-off donation via Buy Me a Coffee. You can also follow me on Twitter at Fairy Whispering. I also have a YouTube channel, Fairy Whisperer. I hope to see you in one of these places. See links in the notes for this show. Hello everyone, how are you all doing? It's summer holidays for me and my family, and we've been spending special time together, getting out into nature. It was a very busy term for me and my children, with my twins completing their final year of school and transitioning now into college. I hope that you're taking time for your well-being too over the summer, getting out into nature and doing some things that you enjoy. I recently had some space and time to myself while my children were away. In the past, I have filled up this time with busy things, seeing friends and going places. I realised how precious this time was, so I gave myself a bit of a retreat, which did me the power of good. Spending time with friends is also important, and beloved family members. Equally important is time to ourselves. It's so easy to fill up our time with chores and to-do lists and shoulds. I'm trying to take the word should out of my thought process. So when I think that I should do something, I give myself time to think about whether I really want to do something or whether it's because I feel that I should do something. It's good to be mindful of our thought processes and motivations behind our actions and what fills up our time and energy. My friend Stevie Walsh from the first episode of this podcast back in January has a wonderful saying: how do I want to spend my heartbeats today? I keep this in mind when I'm thinking about how I want to spend my time. I've recently appeared on Joe Hickey Hall's Modern Fairy Sightings podcast, on which I did a takeover with my wonderful co-host Kate Hairgirl Ray. There's a link to this episode in the description for this show. I also have recorded a wonderful interview with Paul Bestel for his amazing podcast, Mysteries and Monsters. I hope you enjoy those too. And as always, thank you to my wonderful patrons, without whom I wouldn't be able to do this podcast. I really appreciate the support, and I feel very humbled that they want to support my journey with this podcast and my other creative work. Thank you to all of them. And if you'd like to join my Fairy Whisperer Patreon community, I'm offering your first 7 days free at the moment on the Dryad tier, which is £3 a month. This episode is a very special one from my Weird Wonderful Wonders podcast last year. I've updated it a bit with some more information. Last year I discovered that a UFO was reported to have landed in a village not far from my home. I had to explore this story, and this is how I came across the Skeleton Mystery, which is a book that was written in 1967 by an author called Eileen Buckle, who was a member of Befora, an association which investigates UFO landings and sightings and ET encounters. The book is about the experiences of a man called Arthur Bryant, who lived at a place called Scorriton, a small village on the edge of Dartmoor. The book recounts the experiences of Eileen and her fellow investigator, Norman, as they explore the case. And during their investigations, they encounter a whole host of unusual characters and strange synchronicities and weird happenings. Whilst reading the book and researching the book, I encountered my own strange synchronicities, and one of these was my guest, Jennie, my guest for this episode, reaching out to me and saying that she was living in the house that Arthur Bryant used to live in, and she had had her own unusual ET, what she believed to be ET related experience. I had to talk to her. What I love about Jennie's experience is that it has many crossovers. Her encounter, which you'll hear about in a moment, seems to cross over the lines of ET, angel and fairy experiences that people have had. What follows is my original intro to the episode. At the end, I've added some extra information too. Replay. Last time I shared Arthur Bryant's ET contact experience, as told by Eileen Buckle in her 1967 book, The Scorriton Mystery. This time we return to Scorriton to chat with a local woman who shares with me two incredible otherworldly experiences. What makes her story even more fascinating is Arthur Bryant once lived in her current home. It was the last place Arthur had lived with his wife and family before his death in 1967. I decided to take my dowsing crystal and ask some questions about Arthur's experience. The answers I received were both strange and fascinating. I do hope that these episodes bring some hope and enlightenment. My lovely guest for this episode wished to remain anonymous. I'm really thankful to her for her open-hearted sharing and for opening up her home to me as well. We start the conversation in her home, which was the house that Arthur Bryant had moved to after his 1965 contact experience. I did some dowsing there, and we also went to a nearby field and did some dowsing too. Afterwards, I realised that this wasn't the field in which Arthur had claimed to have his close encounter. This field is high above the village on the edge of Scorriton Down. However, I feel that the information I received is worth including. By the way, the sounds you can hear in the background are my guest's cats mewing and not anything supernatural. Enjoy, and I will come back to you for a chat at the end.
So there's all sorts in here. The Down Tour, Cairn Circle, Stone Row on Dartmoor. So there's all sorts. I think it must have the Triple Row and Cairn Circle at Cosden. There's lots of ones that you can't normally find, and lots of really interesting maps. And this is only on just this bit. This is another one. This is another one, Whitemoor Down. Yeah. Fine but little known stone circles. So there's lots of stone circles. So obviously Bowman's Nose. So this has got all the quoits and everything like that. So, but it's also, because it's written by Julian Cope, it's also kind of got quite spiritual experiences that he kind of had there. You know, Grimspound and Hookney Tor. Yeah, that's quite near here.
Yeah, I've been up to that one.
So I haven't really had many. Are you recording now?
I'm recording now. Yeah.
I haven't really had many experiences here. Although before I moved in, I was made aware of what had happened and what the rumour was and everything, and it was explained to me. And it was the view from the bedroom here above. I think that was he first encountered whatever it was in that field there.
Oh, right.
That field in itself does have a particular vibe about it, but it's normally full of cows, so we don't really go in there at all.
Have you been in?
I have been in the field, yeah.
Does the farmer mind if people go in?
If the cows aren't in there, not really, no. I mean, do you want to go in there?
I'd like to go in there while I'm here, because I don't know when I'd come back.
I mean, the cows aren't out at the moment, and as long as there's no sheep or anything in there, we could have a little wander into the middle of it and come back again. I know the farmer wouldn't mind that. If we're not doing any. There's a gate here. There's a gate? There's a gate. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because those houses then, they must have been built after that time, because the
Which
houses
ones?
on the other side.
Oh, on the other side of the field?
No, on the other side of the road.
Oh, where you're parked?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're later council houses, but these are older council houses. These are old cottages. This is an old tithe barn, which kind of dates back to something like the 1700s, I think. And then obviously it was converted, and it's been converted again. And I think these fireplaces were put in at a later date, but they're granite fireplaces, so they go. So it goes all the way. There's two granite fireplaces.
Yeah.
So I've got one of them, but the granite goes all the way through to next door, and he's got one next door. So it's like a double.
Yeah.
The granite doesn't stop there. It's kind of, they've built them.
Yeah.
4 fireplaces in order to divide the barn up when they divided the barn up. But there's water that runs all the way underneath, and there's a well just there, and there's water. So this path outside here is hollow underneath, and there's water that runs all the way underneath it, and there's a well that's closed over that's just there.
Well, this is interesting because as part of this, I was hoping to speak to a local dowser, because I was looking into. I believe that the properties of a landscape can lend to experiences.
Oh, they do, definitely. Yeah.
So, that's interesting. There's a combination of water. I don't know if there's any. I know this whole valley it's called called an inner county or something. I've heard it called, where it's a county of valleys.
Oh, okay.
So it's made up of about 7 different valleys.
Wow.
Or coombs, rather.
Oh, coombs, yes.
Yeah. So it's like a bowl. It's like a large sort of bowl-shaped area with those coombs in it, and lots of water and lots of minerals, because there was mining here as well. Yes, there
was, yes.
So I'm wondering what it is about this specific place, whether,
Well, and Hembury, of course, you've got Hembury Woods with its Iron Age fort, but there's also down into the woods, there's lots of mine shafts and things going on there. I mean, Hembury, you must know.
I know Hembury, I've had experiences there myself. It's got unique feeling to it, hasn't it?
Definitely. But I mean, it's almost like it's an anomaly. It's almost like, there's portals here that wouldn't normally be here, I think, anyway. And especially between the 2 bridges, there's one down there and one at the bottom there. There's 2 little bridges, so we're kind of trapped in between these 2 little bridges. I mean, we can have a walk if you want to in a bit to go and
that'd be good. That'd be good, because some more things might come up.
I mean, we can certainly go down to the one there, and then we can walk around it. I mean, if you want to have a walk, that's
great.
That'd
be great. We could do that. And what I'm interested in, it's really fascinating. I don't know. Obviously, I'm going to keep your name anonymous as part of this. But do you mind people knowing that you live in this house?
No, of course not.
We're talking about it. Okay. So, what drew you to this house?
So this house was drawn to me because this house is a Live West local authority house, and I was living in Totnes at the time, and then this house came up as a 3-bedroomed house, which it isn't really. It's smaller than my last 2-bedroom flat in Totnes, but as a house for me and my 3 children and my then partner to be housed in. So I came out and had a looked through the window, thought, oh my God, it's absolutely tiny. But then moved here, and it was really quite coincidental because at the time, it turns out that I know at least 3 other families that have lived here. At the time, I was friends with a woman. We were doing lift shares to school. And I said, oh, I've been offered this house. This was from when I was in Totnes. And I said, oh, and I gave her the address. And she went, oh my God, that was the house that I lived in, in this time. And then I had another friend my daughter was friends with her at the same school. And I said to her, oh yes, we've been offered this house. Gave her the address, and she said, oh my God, that was my dad's house. And he lived there as a child for about 20 years. And she said, I know, that was where he lived, and that was where my grandmother lived for all those years. And I think that was during the 60s. So, and then in between the last woman, the woman who had lived here, there was another woman that lived here who unfortunately had lost her son, but I also knew him as well. So it seems to be one of those places that, I don't know whether those links are relevant really. I don't, it was a coincidence, I have to say, that my friend that I was seeing every day and he was lift sharing with, just sort of went, oh my God, I lived there. And I mean, obviously these are local authority houses, so anybody that is in, sort of, housing association accommodation is more likely to have lived here and know it as a council house in inverted commas. But yeah, I mean, we kind of moved in, and it's strange. I'm sort of settled here, but I've never really been settled here. I've never thought of it as my forever home, but I think it feels quite vacuous as well. It feels like kind of you kind of stuck here. It's almost like something is holding. But I don't imagine I'll live here forever. But sometimes I think, well, it's better, what you've got than what you haven't got. I know lots of people that are struggling with housing at the moment, and I can't afford to buy anywhere, so the rent is relatively small compared to other people's rent that rent privately. So and I've got gardens, and they need a bit of attention at the moment. But I mean, my personal experiences with what I would say is otherworldly things weren't actually when I was in this house; they were beforehand. But as far as the place itself is concerned, I think it definitely has a certain sort of energy, especially all the land around. And
what would you say that feeling is, if you could put it into words? I know it's difficult.
Well, as I say, I feel like it. I feel like there's portals. I feel like there's, I feel like there's a vibration that actually is kind of louder, that can be heard by the soul in a louder way, because the nature and the strength of the water and the nature, comes through all the other, white noise, I call it, the white noise of living. As if you imagine kind of light pollution at night, well, people pollution kind of dissipates that real, true connection to, to the kind of earth and beyond, really, that spiritual connection that, being within nature can give you.
Yes, my experiences of, I mean, even if, I live in Newton Abbot, but I noticed that shift in vibration when I go up onto Dartmoor. I think that's why so many people love it up there. And the times I've stayed at friends who live up on the moors and feeling that the veil is thinner.
Oh, it definitely is, yeah. And I mean, it's just, as you know, there's less. I don't know whether it's necessarily thinner. I just think there's less kind of debris in the way, really. There's less thought, you know, people's thought and people's actions and people's noise and people's energy in general. And that's why, you know, a lot of people prefer to work at night. For instance, people say, I can only really write at night because that's only when I can think clearly. Well, that's because there isn't all the other thought in the way. I mean, thought and noise and energy and movement, you know, kinesis. But thought has its own kinesis anyway, you know. You can affect things with thought. It's a bit like that. You know, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, does it make a sound? You know, it's a bit like that, because if there's nobody there to hear it, does it exist? You know, I personally think, of course, it exists. You know, because I'm a bit of a scientist, really, which kind of what makes it unusual.
Well, that's interesting. So I'd like to talking about. If you like to share your experience that you've had. Just as it is, I mean, perhaps, you know, from a scientific, if you've got a scientific perspective on it as well.
So one experience was quite, you know, it's only a couple of experiences, and I think if I was a bit, you know, loopy or, you know, whatever, I think I probably would have racked up quite a few more, but because these were quite a few years ago and they were experiences that I have never forgotten, that have stayed very deeply rooted in me, you know, I think they are perfectly valid and not figments of my imagination by any means. So I was in Totnes, and I'm just gonna go onto my, because I can't remember the date of it, but I know that I'll be able to find it. Research. No, it must have been 1998. I'm just trying to find it now. It was on the night before a big crop circle was found in Berry Pomeroy, in a field in Berry Pomeroy. And I was lying in bed and I wasn't asleep. I was possibly in a hypnagogic state, but I know that I wasn't asleep because I was awake. And then all of a sudden, there was something subsonic that happened, and it felt like it came right from very, 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 very deep in the earth, and my whole body started to vibrate like this. And I wasn't, you know, I wasn't ill or anything like that. I wasn't having a seizure or anything like that. And then as the body was vibrating, a kind of subsonic message came through, but it came through in a really slowed down way, and it was very clear what the words were, but they were very drawn out. So the message was, we are trying to communicate with you. But it came through in what seemed like an endless amount of time, but no time at all, almost in a hole, but it sounded like
we are trying to communicate with you.
But it was a vibration.
Yeah.
But they were words within the vibration. And I heard it, and when it happened, and I was just like, I was really quite frightened actually, because I realised that oh my God, it's making all my hair stand up on end now. Just remembering it. I realised that I'd experienced something otherworldly that wasn't my imagination. I felt it physically, and I knew that it was subsonic. I knew that it came from below the earth, and it was a vibration that was coming up through the earth, and there was a message in it, and that was the message. Anyway, so eventually kind of was like, couldn't really sleep very much after that. Was really but I did sleep. And then I got up the next day and I took the kids to school and went to the cafe. And then somebody came in and said, oh my God, there's this big crop circle that's just appeared overnight in Berry Pomeroy. And I get my blood, I just kind of went, oh my God. I knew then that that's what it was. And in my mind, there was no way that anybody had done that. It hadn't been there. Just nobody had. And I've tried really hard to get pictures of it and things. It really did happen. I'm sure if I kind of really rake through the archives, I'd be able to find it, because people went up to see it and people went and lay down. I didn't go up to see it. I don't know why. I think I didn't drive at the time, and I think it was just too difficult for me to get up there. I should have gone up there.
When was this again? What was
so it must have been in 1996 or 1997. So it was a long time ago. But obviously it was kind of something that was, and at the time I was very kind of, I'd lived in Totnes only for about a year. And it was just something that, has always, stayed with me, and I have got an interest in crop circles. Some of them are man-made, some of them aren't. But I wouldn't say I was massively interested in them at the time or whatever, but when it happened, I just sort of thought, well, yeah, I know that's what that is.
I didn't know that there was one in Devon, because the ones in Wiltshire take up so much.
Oh, right, okay.
Press coverage or...
Well, they come and go, don't they?
Yeah.
They do happen quite frequently. It'd be interesting to kind of research.
Yes.
It was in Berry Pomeroy. It was in one of the fields in Berry Pomeroy. And, the research I've done about crop circles since is that they act, and they obviously there's a magnetic magnetic factor to them, and the fact that, they're the corn's been tested, or the wheat, or whatever it is that the crop is, and they have a really kind of high magnetic resonance or radioactive resonance or whatever it is. And lots of things that have been kind of researched about them show that it's actually a force that comes from beneath rather than from on top.
Wow, that's interesting.
So it's like this is since this happened, because I've got a friend who kind of we talked to about it, and I kind of really looked into communication through subsonic resonance, and that this is what they feel, or people that have have the theory that it is otherworldly life forces that are making the crop circles, that they're using subsonic tools to try and communicate with us, and the patterns that they're giving are mathematical patterns generally, are the simple ways of them trying to of the manifestation of them trying to, the way that they're trying to communicate. And some people get it, very few people get it, but on a scientific level, I think it has scientifically been proved that some of the crop circles are formed from subsonic activation.
Yeah, sound frequencies, and that kind of ties into the sound, the patterns. I've got the name of the scientist now to look him up, but he did all those experiments with
the sound and water, and yes,
and the sound, the patterns created by sound. So,
but it was the fact that I, and I will stand by this to this very day, and people can call me as mad as they want, but it was the fact that I heard what they were saying. I heard it. I heard the message. And the message was translated through, because my body was literally going woo, and it was like woo, but I could feel that it was coming. It wasn't pushed down or pulled up. It was coming from the earth, and it came up through my feet.
Yeah.
The other experience was a couple of years later, which was it was quite a strange experience. I've always been quite psychic and had kind of messages and things, but I was experiencing all kinds of I'd moved house by then from where I was when this happened to over the road. And there was I was experiencing all kinds of very strange dreams of weird people, and I felt like on reflection, I felt like my filters weren't there, so I was getting all kinds of stuff in. And again, it was like white noise, but I didn't have any control over all these. And, I felt like there were spirits, or there was, all kinds of stuff coming in. And, yes, I was kind of lying down in a sort of relaxed state. And all of a sudden, I felt this incredible wave of heat coming all the way up through my feet.
Wow.
All the way up to my body, and it was just like a massive wave of heat that was slowly moving up with me, and then it came up to my solar plexus, and then it went whoosh out my solar plexus. At which point I did open my eyes, but whether or not my eyes were shut, but my eyes were open, if you get me. There was this really tall figure, really, really tall, about 7-8 foot figure, with really blonde hair, very long face, and dressed all in orange. And then they acknowledged me, and I acknowledged them, and then they acknowledged me again. In I suppose it'd be thought or whatever, saying, we are healing, and I just got this immense kind of feeling that this, they had just healed me, and they had probably, done something with my solar plexus, or my, healed from there up and then come out, and perhaps kind of. And then after that experience, I didn't have any of that stuff coming in. The dreams, the constant dreams, and the constant voices, and constant. It was almost like I was out of time. I wasn't quite in sync. I sort of had one foot in one world and one foot in the other world, and I wasn't quite balanced and right.
Yeah.
And then this being had come in. And just on an astral plane, and healed me, and gone away, and I was fine after that. So, but it was just the image, and whether or not that image was the image that my mind had devised for that being. So beings can manifest in whatever way you want them to.
Yeah.
Or whether or not that's what that being looked like. But then again, I hadn't read anything about. I had a real thing about it being Pleiadian after that. There was something that I kind of went, oh my God, is this a being from the Pleiades? And I hadn't read anything at all about them. I hadn't, as with the crop circles, I hadn't investigated anything. There was nothing in my mind already about it. And then when I researched it, I found that as a stereotype almost was something that other people had encountered.
And it's also interesting as well. I think it's fascinating. I'm just thinking back to the last podcast I did, which was kind of linked to angelic experiences. And you wonder if people have seen this kind of being in the past and thought, well, it's an angel.
I felt like it was an angel, but not in an angel. Not in the God angel that we say, but yes, I really felt. I felt that this being, whatever it was, and however it manifested, was healing me, was rebalancing me, and
and perhaps like just a very high form of intelligence, from another dimension, So
definitely, that's what it felt like, and whether or not it was Pleiadian or whatever. Again, it was a long time ago. I mean, I have all sorts of experiences, but those are two otherworldly experiences that I feel that I've had a connection with intelligent life form from other worlds, basically.
So was that experience with the figure after the other one?
Yeah.
So I wonder if
I think it was within a year.
Oh, okay.
So that first experience had opened something up.
Yeah.
And then they come back and like a little bit of first aid, saying right, okay, so we've done that, but, you know, it's like, beep, beep, comes up on their little board saying, you know, unbalanced. So they kind of have to, once they've kind of made that attempt to communicate, then they have to readdress the balance and see who it might have wobbled out a little bit. I did think that, and I do think that. Yeah.
And both times were you living in the same place?
No.
So the first one you were in
quite close proximity.
So Totnes area.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah, the top of town. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Because Totnes, I mean, it has got. There's so many people.
Well, this is in very, very close proximity to the castle. So that whole area,
Wow.
I mean, literally a stone's throw. So one place that I lived was literally a stone's throw from the other place, and the place that I moved to afterwards was virtually underneath the castle.
Yeah, so. That unusual mound.
Yeah.
That somebody, people of the past had plonked a castle on top, but who knows? It's probably been used as a place.
Who knows what's under there? Yeah, exactly. Be interesting to find out, wouldn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, it's interesting because it links in with the whole fairy mythology as well. The idea that fairies live in mounds and they live under hill forts, and what you're describing as well. People have seen fairy beings that are tall and thin, and was said, or maybe it was a fairy of the she type, but maybe they're all interchangeable. Who knows? Maybe they're all from a similar dimension.
I mean, possibly, or maybe they're just different. They're more apparent in different places because we are able to. It might not be, that it might be easier for them to exist in particular places than others, or it might be easier for us to encounter and see them. So which it is, we don't know. But I tend to think it's the former, because I feel that, I mean, places that are kind of less populated, sort of like. And I do believe it's all, to do with kind of how the water flows and the energy flows as well. It's the veins of the earth, really, isn't it? I used to dowse, but I don't anymore. But I have got some dowsing rods somewhere. But,
yeah. I've got my crystal with me, actually. I always carry like a little dowsing crystal.
Oh, yes, okay.
Pendulum.
Yeah.
Maybe you could try it in the field.
You could. You can even try it in here. I would imagine it'll go bonkers in here.
Oh, that'd be interesting,
wouldn't it? To give it a go, yeah.
Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah. We could ask it some questions.
Yes, okay.
Shall we do that?
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to put some new batteries in this.
That all the frackers are rubbing their hands together and going, oh, right, let's get fracking again in the UK. And there was a, what do they call it, moratorium or something in 2019, where they stopped all fracking because of the risk of earthquakes.
Yes.
And now because of the war, the recent war, then they're now all the frackers, they're all going, oh, we've got to frack again. And my heart just sank. It just sank this morning when I heard that. I was just like, you can't do that. You can't do that to the earth.
No,
you can't.
It's so crazy because, like you say, it's like, why? Okay, so the situation's happened. We're low on fossil fuels. Now's the time to use alternative energies.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, it has increased, but nowhere to the point where it should be.
No.
The amount of money that they're spending on trying to extract shale gas, if you put that into more wind farms, more solar farms, it would, that amount of money, it would easily make as much.
Or building new houses that are off grid.
Yeah.
that have alternative.
Completely off grid. You don't, if you've got your own. Because all these houses are all solar panelled now. There's quite a lot of them.
Oh, that's good.
They're sending money to sending electricity to the national grid. Because there's too much electricity that they're generating for their household needs. But if they just use their own for the household needs, I've got lots of friends that live off grid, so it's perfectly possible. But the fighting. Oh God, it's in the state of the room again. Please don't make the state of my room.
So, shall we go for a little walk? I don't want to take up too much of your time, but perhaps if we go into...
Well, if we go down this way and then to the little bridge, and then we can come up the hill and then go round again and down to the little bridge.
Okay.
That'll be about an hour.
Yeah.
Is that too much?
That's fine. Before we go, I will get out my crystal.
That'll be interesting. Have you heard of Tom Lethbridge?
No.
So Tom Lethbridge was he wrote one of the original dowsing books. He's a very famous dowser. We are friends now, so I can send you some links to.
I'd love
to Tom Lethbridge in particular.
Could I ask if that's a yes, and a no is when it goes in a circle.
So I always used to do clockwise for yes and anti-clockwise for no. So
okay.
That's kind of different. So.
That is going anti-clockwise, for no. And then it swings side to side when I have a yes.
Okay.
Question. Did Mr. Bryant live here? It's swinging side to side for yes. Did he encounter people from a different dimension in the field opposite? It's still swinging from side to side. It's quite strong. Swinging from side to side. I'm just going to test out a no. Was his first name Mary? Starting to go anti-clockwise now. Cats. Was he telling the truth about his experience? Yes.
Oh.
Is there anything you'd want to ask?
I can't think, really. Is Mr. Bryant still around in this house?
It's still swinging.
Ooh. Is Mrs. Bryant still knocking around in this house? I don't know if that looks like a no. Almost, doesn't it?
It's shaking. Is Mr. Bryant interested in our conversation today? Let's do now.
I don't know. It's. It's wibbly wobblying, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't know quite. Oh my God! Look at that. That's really
strange.
Ah!
It's really vibrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So just for people listening, the crystal's just really vibrating.
Oh my God.
Was the human-like young man that Mr. Bryant said he met, George Adamski, returned? Oh my gosh. It's swinging side to side for yes.
Oh, now it's going.
Oh.
No, it doesn't quite know what it's doing, does it?
No.
It's sort of going no and yes. Now it's doing its vibrating thing again.
Yeah.
It's really, I know that nobody can see it, but I just want to kind of emphasise that, you know, you are completely still and the crystal is going from side to side.
It's vibrating from side to side.
It really is.
I'm not sure what that means. It'd be interesting to take it out into the field and ask a few questions in the field.
Oh my God, that is so weird.
Was what Mr. Bryant experienced some kind of secret experiment that wasn't otherworldly?
Oh my God, it's going absolutely crazy.
It's swinging side to side for yes. Because one of the theories is that maybe it was, you know, secret experiment to test perhaps what somebody's reaction would be to a flying saucer landing. So were the two other people, were they from another planet? Were they from Venus? The two people with Adamski?
I don't know if that's a yes or a no. It almost looks like it's trying to...
Yeah, it's changing direction.
Oh, it's going... Right, it's going anti-clockwise now.
Yeah, it's going anti-clockwise.
But it's kind of... It's funny because it's sort of pulling, isn't it? It's pulling. You can see it.
Whoa.
Oh, that's big, that is. That's a big no.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange? Because you can see it kind of changing and pulling in a kind of non-swingy kind of way. It's almost like something's pulling it.
So what was that note?
Well, I suppose something is pulling it.
Interesting.
Okay.
Thank you.
I quite believe that they weren't from Venus because I don't think Venus is
habitable.
Well, not for... But then, you know, it's like I'm saying about kind of the manifestation, you know, things manifest in the way that we want to see them, or I truly believe that other worldly beings or extraterrestrial or whatever, you know, could tune in to the way that we would choose to see something, and therefore they use our power of vision or our understanding or our kind of whatever in a way that we would understand. I suppose a bit like the mathematical patterns of crop circles, or you know, me seeing the apparition and it being something that's been an image that's in my subconscious, that what I think that being would look like, or a stereotype, you know. So they say, oh, let's give her that stereotype just to, you know, because this is a stereotypical, you know, kind of version of ourselves that we have. So let's use that one. Strange.
It's fascinating. Right.
I think that's a neighbour's mother, actually.
Okay. So just going into the field where the UFO landed. Oops, caught up on the brambles.
So we'll just check there's no big balls that are going to chase after us.
Oh, interesting, because
Quite muddy, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I'm just struck by these patches of grass here, look. These all round patches of grass. So those houses wouldn't have been there.
I don't know. There must have been.
These,
I don't know. What year was this?
1964.
These might have been just being built then.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I sort of imagined the field a bit more out of the way.
There's a window.
Yeah, oh yes.
You would have looked out of the window
onto
the field. Here.
Yeah.
And this is...
So I wonder which part of the field. I'll have to look back at the book.
I envisage it would be a little dip in that
in the
bowl
dip,
there.
yeah. There's sort of dip in the land, and then it's quite interesting that there's these patches of grass here that are circular, that look like, I know it isn't, but it looks like, you know, something could have landed.
The pot where I'm not sure what they are. They might be kind of docks, or it's probably bracken.
Yeah.
It looks like they've been treated because there's no bracken, and actually it looks like bracken stalks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the farmers probably treated it because they can't have the cattle eating bracken. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe it is the pod. The landing pods. I see what you mean. It is in that kind of funny shape, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, there's that lovely dip in the land where something could have landed.
Ask the crystal, couldn't you? I can hold your task.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Thank you. Shall we walk a little bit over here? Can you show me the direction? Show me the direction of where the UFO that Miss Bryant saw landed. Can you show me the direction where it landed? There. Sort of swinging over that way. Over in that corner.
Yeah, it's over there, isn't it? It's pointing to over there.
Over there.
We can do. I don't want to go too much into the field in case there's a kind of panic. Because if they don't see it's me, they'll think, who's that in the field? Because they can see us from here to the farm.
Yeah. So I hope to stay here. So was it people from another planet that he saw that landed here? Still swinging for yes. Was it a secret experiment? No. Oh, it's shaking again. It's going anti-clockwise. Oh. Anti-clockwise for no. So it was something otherworldly that he saw, yes. Interesting.
Yeah. And the field really does kind of, it's a steep kind of downhill, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perfect for tobogganing in the snow. Yeah. It is quite steep, there's a few bumps along the way, but I think the children have been down here a few times.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean that. Yeah. It almost has an amphitheatre kind of feel, doesn't it?
It is.
You can kind of see why something would. And of course, this here along the left-hand way, and all the way round to the bottom is Holybrook.
Oh yes.
Or Hollybrook.
Yes.
The Hollybrook or the Holybrook, which is water, and we're going to go down to where it leads down to the bridge, so it's almost completely encircled by water. Sort of 3/4 of it is encircled by a stream, which isn't unusual for a field round here, but
yes,
it's it obviously it holds it, doesn't it, in a way?
Yeah, so it's almost like an island.
Yeah.
Okay, let's follow the holy brook.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go round that way, and it goes round that way, but we'll go and meet it at the bridge down the lane. Reappearing out of a spaceship.
Yeah.
You know, what are the Adamski? What's the connection there? Why and how would that happen? And what was, Bryant's connection to this character?
Well, apparently there was no connection.
No.
The only connection that's kind of emphasised in the book is that they both had a Romany origins.
Right, okay, well that's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, especially considering, Romany having... Well, that's quite interesting, because I've got some Romany origins deep back. Well, way back, yeah, on my maternal grandmother's side. Yeah, I mean, how far back it is, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of... It's interesting, isn't it? Because, Romany people are said to, be gifted with sight and, and all that kind of thing. Just actually as in a different race of people, in a different genetic makeup. But, we're talking about the days long before there was social media and, newspapers. Well, you might have got a newspaper and seen a picture, perhaps. But did he? Could he be bothered to go to get a newspaper and read that news story? It's like, links. How would he know who it was? And, so those kind of... I must confess, I haven't read the book. So maybe that's something I should do.
The only way it's really hard to get hold of because it's out of print. So the only way I could get hold of it was through the library.
Okay.
And
I think I've tried to get hold of it before, actually. Yeah.
But online, trying to buy it, there's most of the copies are in America, and it's selling for between £40 to £50.
Right, that's quite a lot of money for a book, isn't it?
And then the shipping costs are something like £20 to £30. So you're looking at nearly £100 for this book.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure somebody somewhere must have a copy of it, but did you get a copy at the library?
I got it at the library. And it's a big book. It's 300 pages.
Right. Okay.
So this is the.
So it comes all the way. There's a tributary at the top. It comes all the way down, and it joins onto this, which is just beautiful, really. There's another leap that comes down from there. So, and they're all headed down towards the Dart. That's where they're all going.
Yeah.
But it's cars go far too fast. It's a proper babbling brook, isn't it? There is a walk up there towards home. I don't know which one you did.
Oh wow!
Oh my gosh!
Where's
the red cup fungus?
I've been looking for that. It's called pixie cups, isn't it? Oh, I'd like to get a photo of that.
There has not been light, no connection, no connection. There has not been light, there has not been light. You are gone.
What an incredible couple of experiences my guest had. She experienced both synchronicities connected with the landscape and themes from the story recounted in The Skeleton Mystery by Eileen Buckle. Can the resonance of a place be a deciding factor in where we choose to live? My guest said that she was drawn to her current home through a series of synchronicities. What drew her to the house? Pure coincidence or the resonance between her experience and that of former homeowner Bryant? My guest had known several of the previous owners, or their relatives going back to the 1960s, like ripples reaching back into the past and reaching forward to the future and present time. Her personal opinion is that Skoroton feels to be an otherworldly place with many portals to other dimensions, having a vibration that can be heard by the soul. Our guest had previously lived in Totnes. This is another place that many feel has an otherworldliness to it, and is affectionately said to be twinned with Narnia. She mentioned how rather than these being thin places, that we are more free of psychic junk and the white noise of living when we go to these places in the landscape. I was struck by the similarity of her first experience with that of Arthur Bryant's. She describes feeling a vibration through her body. He described hearing a loud humming from outside his cottage on the 7th of June 1965 in his second encounter. I found reference to a crop circle in a field at Bury Farm, Bury Pomeroy, in June 1992. However, I've so far been unable to find the one from 1996 or 1997 that my guest experienced. If anyone has any information, then please do email me. It is intriguing that my guest experienced a strong vibration through her body, and then the next day the crop circle was discovered to have appeared overnight in nearby fields. Crop circles appear in fields all over the world every year. One theory is that their formations are created by the resonance of Mother Earth, and that perhaps the patterns created are a form of communication by extraterrestrials with us. I researched the theory about crop circles being formed by sound vibrations from below the ground and found a very good article with lots of information by Freddie Silver. There's a link in the show notes. I was intrigued that he mentioned that the First Nations people of America would dance in a circle in cornfields, and that this promoted the growth and yield of the crop. I'm put to mind of folklore tales of fairies dancing in circles in fields. Is there a connection here? My guest mentioned the magnetic factor of crop circles and communication through subsonic resonance. The formations of the majority of crop circles are mathematical patterns which seem to replicate the scientific experiments with somatics of Dr. Hans Jennie. He found that when a sound plate sprinkled with sand was vibrated at varying frequencies, that mathematical patterns appeared. We briefly spoke about fracking, which is of course using vibration to access shale gas. I wonder how this is affecting the Earth's resonance. After my guest's first experience, she says that, in her words, her filters weren't there and that she was having all sorts of experiences. It is interesting that my guest shares Romany ethnicity with Arthur Bryant. The Romanis are nomadic people in tune with nature's rhythms and its signs and symbols in the landscape, carrying within deep ancient knowledge. In the Skoroton mystery, Eileen Buckle wonders if Arthur might be psychic. She recounts Arthur's experience with the being that calls himself Yabsky, that she suggests could be George Adamski. She says Yabsky told Bryant that one of the reasons that he had selected him was that they were both from Romany ancestry. Arthur said that his background had not made him particularly psychic, but had been having hunches and receiving impressions since the day of his contact, not before. Likewise, my guest says that her receiving of messages and otherworldly experiences increased after her first experience with the vibration and the message received. It was at this point that the tall visitor in orange came to her bedroom and said telepathically, "We are healing, we are healing." She experienced a wave of heat, which is often reported by people who have received Reiki healing, which is a kind of energetic healing. My guest felt that the being was a Pleiadian from the Pleiades star system. Could these beings be the circle creators, or perhaps those that people throughout history have identified as angels? A note about angels. Archangel Uriel is often depicted as wearing orange in artwork and associated with the colour orange. The colour orange is also associated with the sacral chakra in energy work. There are many accounts in the Bible of angels being messengers. You can read some of these in the show notes that I've included for my patrons. According to my guest, the being was aware that her energetic vibration had been pushed out of alignment and had come to heal her. Where she had lived in the 1990s was near Totnes Castle, which was constructed on top of a very peculiar dome-shaped mound. So was this being one of the Sidhe, the tall fairy race, that was said to have retreated beneath the earth to escape the ever-encroaching humans? We'll never know. The word Sidhe means mound. The mound that Totnes Castle stands on is man-made. It's not a natural mound. It's interesting what she says about otherworldly beings tuning into our perception of what they look like and manifesting in that form to suit our expectations. In the same way, the crop circles appearing in the form of mathematical patterns that we can interpret and understand. She offers this as an explanation of Arthur Bryant's experience also, with regards to Venus being able to support life. Perhaps these beings were time travelling from the distant past, distant future, or even an alternative reality where Venus is habitable. Anything is possible, and I don't have the answers to any of these questions. Incidentally, Arthur Bryant's encounter with Venusians was not the only claimed encounter with Venusians in Devon. George King, leader of the Aetherius Society, claimed to have had an encounter with Jesus on Holdstone Down in 1958. Jesus said that he was from Venus during this encounter. I feel my guest's experience helps to reframe Arthur Bryant's story of his encounter, perhaps validating it in some way. The dowsing session was really interesting, both in the cottage and in the field. I have included the responses that I received to my dowsing questions in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the end. See you next time, and remember to keep your heart open and be the change.